Well, the things today that are making websites slow, I think primarily focus on third-party content. So the story I tell is when I started working on website performance 5 or 6 years ago, the pie was this big. If you looked at all the things for a website that could be optimized, there was a pretty big list and a lot of low-hanging fruit. And the slice of that pie that had to do with third-party content, ads, widgets, analytics, was small, maybe 20% of the pie. But what's happened is through tools like YSlow and PageSpeed and conferences like Velocity and my books and other people's books, we're getting a lot of website owners focusing on making those performance optimizations to their code. And so the size of that pie has shrunken down, but you still have that slice from third-party content that has stayed about the same. If anything, it's even grown. In the last 3 years, mashups and widgets have really taken off. And so now we're seeing, whereas 5 years ago, maybe 20% of the performance problems on a site were third-party content, now it's maybe more like 40 or 50%, maybe even more. So this is a really important area for evangelism, right? Because a third party doesn't have as much motivation to optimize their code that's running on some other publisher's website. The publisher is obviously very motivated to optimize their website, and that's why we saw that big pie get smaller. But now this third party content, we have to do kind of twice as much evangelism to reach those people. So I'm doing a series of blog posts right now that I call P3PC, Performance of Third Party Content. So I'm looking at popular ad networks, mashup widgets, analytics, and analyzing their performance profile. Some of them are really good, some of them are really bad. And if we could optimize those, I think it would have a big improvement on website performance. I feel like programmers, I'm a programmer. I've been programming for almost 30 years now. And I think that there's something in the way programmers are wired that they like to optimize. I love to optimize, but I think that's true of most programmers. And a badge of honor is having code that's highly optimized, that's efficient, and runs fast. So I find it enjoyable and pretty easy to evangelize these performance best practices to the development community, because if you can explain to them ways, especially easy ways, that they can make their code a lot faster, they want to do that. Now what's harder is to evangelize that to other parts of the business, because it's not all about engineering. And what I've done in that area, and what we did at Velocity last year, is build up these business cases where we see industry leaders like Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, Shopzilla, getting up and telling stories about how these performance optimizations have improved business metrics, user metrics, ad click-throughs, conversions, shopping cart sizes, unique users, page views, session length. And so what we're seeing is it's this beautiful win-win where we get optimized code, which we like doing things that are very high quality, and that investment in high quality is also better for the business. So I think that's the same thing that is going to help with third-party content. First, we have to see what are the things that we can do to fix this third-party content. Nail down the best practices, especially the low-hanging fruit, the easy improvements. And then we can evangelize that by evangelizing to developers who like to write optimized code, but then also evangelize to the business owners and other parts of the organization who can see that there are business advantages to having optimized code. Ads are a great example. You can serve an ad, you can fire a beacon to count the impression, and the ad still might not have been displayed. The actual image or Swift flash file that's displaying the ad might not have finished loading. And so someone is paying for an ad that the user has never seen. And also, if ads are slow, people are going to block those domains. Some users are going to go that far. And so you're not going to get your ads seen. And although I haven't seen any case studies that support this, I think we're going to see over the next year or two we'll see people releasing studies where they show that they've optimized the performance of their ad or widget, and that has driven the same sort of business improvements that we saw for websites. I've been working on website optimizations for about 5 or 6 years, and we're seeing a lot of adoption of those best practices. Whereas, 4 years ago, there were very few tools to choose from. Now there's a lot of tools in the space. Every browser has built-in network analyzers and performance analyzers. And I would say overall, the best practices, I think, are getting a fair amount of adoption. And if we look at statistics across the major websites in the US and in the world, we can see that metrics like adoption of gzip compression and sprites, JavaScript minification, things like that are increasing. So I think that's going pretty well, and I feel like a lot of people do that the future of the web is mobile. And there we have even more challenges when it comes to performance. The devices are smaller, the network connection is more difficult, throughput may be less. Disk space, memory, caching are all going to be reduced. And so I think this is an area where it's kind of the way things were 5 or 6 years ago when I started. There's very few tools. We don't know what the best practices are. We don't know what the bottlenecks are. So we have to build those tools. We have to analyze these mobile devices, their browsers, and even their native applications. We have to see where the bottlenecks are, and then we have to come up with the best practices to address those bottlenecks and evangelize those. And just like we've done with websites, we need to build these use cases, these case studies that substantiate this investment in improving quality on mobile also is good for the business as well as promoting higher quality in our development.